Hello everyone, it's the NFL Exporter, Expert Reporter, Ty Goodman, checking the Underworld Sports Show. We're now over to the AFC South and starting things off are the Indianapolis Colts coming in at 3-1. This year led by Andrew Luck and Reggie Wayne and company. The Colts have done an excellent job so far this year. Had only one tough loss at home to a Miami Dolphins team who's definitely showed formidable this year. The Colts again led on offense by Andrew Luck. Ahmad Bradshaw was a pickup from the New York Giants. He's played fairly well. Unfortunately for Bradshaw, he's always finding himself nicked up. Came into the season, battling injuries and just recently got hurt again. Recently the Colts did pick up Trent Richardson from the Cleveland Browns, so we'll see. Obviously Richardson is an upgrade from Bradshaw at running back. Should also bring some great depth and just complement Bradshaw, take some pressure off of Andrew Luck, who's had to pass off an awful lot, which of course he doesn't mind, and he showed that he has the capability to definitely do that. I really like what I'm seeing out of Luck in his second year out of Stanford. This guy is a consummate professional. You can see him working hard in the offseason. He definitely looks good out there. Still has Reggie Wayne and T.Y. Hilton in the passing game. It's really Hilton that we're waiting for to come around. Wayne is doing his thing as usual, being that #1 wide receiver that he's shown he can be years ago when Marvin Harrison left. So it's really about Hilton coming around and solidifying being that definite #2 receiver. He's been inconsistent so far this year, up and down, a couple good games, a couple bad games. That consistency will really help Andrew Luck out a lot, but he did come around and turn it on at the end of last year, so he might be a guy who, being a young player, probably gets stronger as the season goes on. And then on the defensive side of the ball, the Colts have been solid. That's what I'm seeing, definitely the most improvements. I felt for the Colts coming in this year. I thought I'd seen them taking a step back after a 10-6 season last year. I figured with the Chuck Pagano, disease thing, the team really fed off that energy. I didn't see the Colts coming out being able to repeat that, but they've certainly exceeded expectations so far in his first 4 games of the season. Robert Mathis is still there, applying a great deal of pressure coming off the edge, and the coaches have a lot of guys in place who are they're disciplined, they're where they're supposed to be when they're supposed to be there. LaRon Landry's an excellent pickup to go on with Anton Bethea in the back of that secondary. 2 very sturdy safeties, and so the Colts are looking good at 3-1. Things are really looking promising for them. Next in the division, the Tennessee Titans, huge surprise here. They're 3-1. I tell you, their defense is really carrying them. Jake Locker still has not shown that he's a top-tier quarterback in this league. The weapons at his disposal, they're not a whole lot. Guys like Kenny Britt, he's just never been able to find his groove again after fighting injuries for years. Nate Washington, he's like the sturdiest guy for them. Nate kind of pops in and out, has a big game, but you don't hear from him again. And then a second-year guy, Kendall Wright, from Baylor, he doesn't seem to have really established himself yet. Chris Johnson, this guy's struggling big time. Defenses, they're stacking the box, and they know that Jake Locker really is not a quarterback who can beat him legitimately in the passing game, especially on a consistent basis. So Johnson really has had no room to run the ball. It's really been their defense making plays, keeping them in games, and Locker and company on offense have been able to do what they had to do to win games. They really played Texans tough in Houston, lost a tough one there, but Tennessee's doing a great job. Obviously ahead of the curve. I had Tennessee coming in at 5-11 this year. Obviously they're ahead of the curve at 3-1. Next in line are the Houston Texans. I had to hit the Texans coming in this year at 11-5. Right now they're 2-2. They really struggled this year. Arian Foster, the running game is not going how we've seen it in the past. Foster, basically didn't play the preseason due to battling a hamstring injury, and he's off to a slow start. And with no running game, which sets up the play action pass for Matt Schaub and this Gary Kubiak offense, the Texans haven't been able to move the ball consistently. Andre Johnson is still making plays in the passing game. So is Owen Daniels. They're really just finding ways to win right now, which is a true mark of a veteran team. Don't get me wrong there, but it's inconsistent right now on the offensive side of the ball. You do have a bright spot in rookie DeAndre Hopkins from Clemson. He's definitely showing a lot of potential and upside. You can see why they took him at that spot. I really like what I see out of this young kid, but offensively right now, the Texans just don't look like they had that spark. But if they have to get that running game going in order for this offense to really get back on track and the type of rhythm they need. On defense, we've yet to see Ed Reed. He's battling the injury. He's just now getting back into the mix and fold of things. So we have to see when he's really healthy with the type of impact he can make on that defense, because they really felt he was a guy who could come over and be that final piece. You already know on the front line, you have J.J. White, you have Brian Cushing, you have guys, Jonathan Joseph, Kareem Jackson. You have guys in that front seven mix there who can make plays. So they were looking for Reed to come into that secondary and really make the big plays as far as forcing turnovers and giving the Texans even more chance to hopefully get to the Super Bowl this year. So we'll see how it works out. Not looking really good right now. The Texans definitely have a lot of work ahead of themselves. Last but not least, the Jacksonville Jaguars. We had the Jags coming at 3-13. They're right on pace, 0-4. This team just doesn't have it. Maurice Jones-Drew, I don't know, man. It's just teams don't respect the passing game. That's pretty much what it is. The pass blocking is the issue. They did draft Luke Joeckel from Texas A&M, number 2 pick overall, offensive tackle. But this offensive line, they just can't give Gabbert the time. He's showing that when they drafted him a couple years ago, lottery pick wasn't worth it. Misread. You could see that at the time they drafted him, just the numbers that he put up at Missouri, it didn't merit the pick. It was more of a reach, I guess. It's not panning out at all. They're really just hanging there with this guy because he was a lottery pick. But Blaine Gabbert just can't get it done. He does have 2 talented wide receivers in Justin Blackman and Cecil Shorts, but most of the time the plays that they're making and being effective, the game is well without out of reach at that time. So it just doesn't look like it's any hope for these Jaguars on offense. Defensively, there's really not much to talk about. I mean, this defense used to at least be average. Now this defense is basically nothing. These guys are on the field pretty much the whole game. It's just really nothing to talk about. This team is not good. I don't know what they can do. They have to figure it out, though. This franchise is in big time trouble. The Jaguars, again, 0-4. Teams they just look forward to playing to them week in and week out. Like I said, a couple bright spots, but for the most part, this franchise really has to think about how it can pull itself together. That wraps up the AFC South. Once again, NFL exporter Ty Goodman, Underworld Sports Show. We'll be back in a minute.